Hey, thank you all for being here and taking the time out of your very busy schedules to give us some insight into your experiences in the aviation industry since graduating PIA. As you all know, the aviation industry continues to need qualified technicians like yourselves to fulfill roles in the world of aviation, and we continue to look for ways to bring these opportunities to young people and also people looking for better careers. The graduates with us today are here to share their insights on earning a technical school education and their experiences working in the industry. I'm Suzanne Markle, President and CEO of PIA, and I'm happy to be here to moderate today. I'd like to welcome our graduates, Marissa Estebanez, Elizabeth Householder, Melissa Markell, Kate Metzger, and Miranda Wales. Let's start by having each of you introduce yourselves and tell everyone when you graduated from PIA and which campus and where you're currently working. And we'll start out with Marissa.
Hi, my name is Marissa Estebanez. I graduated PIA in January of 2021 in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. That was interesting. I am currently employed at South Carolina Avionics Services. I am an aircraft maintenance technician. I mainly focus on GA aircraft. We work on a lot of, what's the correct word? Cessnas, Pipers, Beaches. We do avionics installs, but we do occasional annuals and inspections for a flight school that is based out of Sumter, where we are located. For the most part, I do most of our maintenance. We are a very, very small shop. We have just upgraded to 7-person crew, so very small. I work on pretty much single engine piston aircraft. I think that's it.
Hi, I'm Kate Metzger. I graduated from PIA Myrtle Beach in same time as Marissa, January 14th, 2021. Let's see, I work at Stambaugh Aviation. It's a repair station in Brunswick, Georgia at the moment. I work on Boeing 707, 727, 37, 57, and 67, primarily 767, but the rest of them are pretty common too. I'm an avionics tech, and I've been here about 1.5 years now.
I am Elizabeth Householder. I graduated PIA in August of 2021. I was hired by SpaceX in their Raptor program. I am a final integration technician. We do final assembly for the Raptor engines, as well as hydraulics and electrical checks.
Hello, my name is Melissa Markell. I graduated 2011 in December. I currently work at Constant Aviation. We work on pretty much anything that flies. We just got our helicopters in for Sanford, but my actual hangar, we focus on Challengers, 300s, 350s, Embraer, Praetors, and pretty much anything that comes into the facility.
My name is Miranda Wales. I graduated from Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics, the Hagerstown campus, December 23rd of 2021. So I currently work at SkyWest Airlines in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We primarily work on CRJ 200s, 700s. Every once in a while we get a CRJ 900 in. They're not as common. We also work on the Embraer ERJ 175s. We do a lot of, it's mostly a lot of service checks, 100-hour inspections, annual inspections. We do pretty much basically all the maintenance with those aircraft. We also have our own sheet metal shop in the maintenance hangar. We don't have a lot of sheet metal shop technicians at the moment. However, my current base manager is working on staffing the sheet metal shop more, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get more involved in that. So I've been working towards that as well.
Okay, so just to get things rolling, I'm going to go back about 20 years to what was happening in many high schools across the country with career planning. And what we were seeing at that time was that many high schools were encouraging students to pursue 4-year bachelor degree programs. And in many school districts, technical schools or technical school education was viewed as being possibly inferior. Or there seemed to be this philosophy out there that technical education should only be an option for high school graduates who are not academically gifted enough to pursue a four-year degree. So it was something that's like, oh, well, you can't make it through college, so you can go to technical school as a fallback. And to some degree, that philosophy persisted for many years into the 2000s. Now, and most recently, and if you watch the news and kind of keep tabs on things that, the things that are changing in our culture and our country, we are starting to see a shift between the emergence of the skilled labor shortages across the country and also the disappointment that is happening for many four-year school graduates as they are finishing school and failing to find gainful employment after graduation. So with that shift that has taken place, I want to ask our panel, what have your personal experiences been when earning a technical school education in a world that may or may not still have been dominated by these expectations of getting a four-year academic degree, or that even had a lower opinion of pursuing a trade? So just, think about that a minute, and maybe Marissa, if you could lead off.
From the moment that I started high school, I knew that I wasn't going to be the kind of person who was just going to be stuck in a desk job. That's just not who I am. I've never been that person. And I knew that going to a four-year college was not going to work out for me. I do not do well in that kind of setting where it's independent, but you're still expected to perform a certain way in class. I didn't excel in high school, and I was in robotics at the time, and we had someone from PIA, I don't remember who it was, came and talked to us my freshman year of high school, and she explained the shortages. She explained how much we really need technicians at the moment. And I remembered thinking, oh my God, that is perfect. That sounds wonderful. I don't want to go to a four-year school. It's so much money. I'm not going to do well. I'm going to be upset at the choice that I made. And I had felt lost when it came to playing a four-year school. It just didn't work out for me. And so I looked into PIA, and thankfully I found it. So I was able to get into the program directly after high school and stuck through it, got my 16 months done, saved a lot of money compared to my peers. And for the most part, every single person I've spoken to has told me that this was the best decision I could have made because of how much disappointment there is with four-year colleges at the moment.
I actually didn't start A&P school until I was 28. When I graduated high school, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of just jumped around to different customer service roles or manufacturing roles. And when I told my parents and my family and my friends that I was going to a trade school to get my FAA A&P license, most of the reactions were, well, after you get that, are you going to be able to get a degree? And honestly, I was like, yeah, I can, but I'm probably not going to because I don't need to. My FAA A&P license opened so many doors for me, including getting my dream job right out of school.
But I understand that sometimes family and friends that, well, what about the degree? Are you going to get your bachelor's? It's definitely something in our culture in the United States that, many of our grandparents, even some of our parents didn't have the chance to go and pursue anything after high school. And so they think of that as a sign of success. But that is one avenue to success. And there are so many other avenues to success. And as you said, Elizabeth, yeah, I could go and do that, but I may not need to. That might not be something that I want to do.
In my high school, they really pushed the point, if you're going to be anything in life, you had to go to college. Like a tech school was for the kids that weren't doing so well. And so my student counselor was just downright mad at me for considering PIA. And Well, I didn't start out considering PIA. I talked to a friend, and they had seen the ad on online, and said, "Hey, this is right up your alley." I mean, I grew up around airplanes and everything, and so I looked into PIA, and I didn't want to spend another Pennsylvania winter. No offense, but so I went down to Myrtle Beach and got my education there. And honestly, it's the best thing I could have done for myself. I'm doing a lot better than a lot of my peers that I graduated high school with. A lot of them have jumped majors one after the other, or if they graduate with their major, they're having difficulty finding jobs. Even though I graduated during the COVID pandemic, I still was able to find a good job, like a decent paying job. So it might not be the dream job, but it's still something. And then I'm moving on to better for now. But yeah.
That's great. And I'm glad that even during COVID, when some of the hiring temporarily cooled off, that you as a new graduate maybe took the advice or had the the wisdom to say, I can always change jobs from the job that's available. But the last thing I want to do is wait and have a gap in employment. At least you're gaining that experience during that period of time while we're waiting for the economy to wake back up again, right? So that was I think a great approach, and hopefully, and I'm sure it is already working out for you that way.
Same with my high school. They really pushed a 4-year education over technical school, but it's like so much more than that, because I realized after receiving my 4-year degree that doesn't really open up that many doors to really make it anywhere in the academic education world. It's like you really have to continue your education into master's, doctorate, and really become an expert in the field to really go anywhere. And that's where it just kind of like turns into a money pit, where it's like they just like kind of sucker all these kids in to spend all this money on a 4-year degree. But it's like, okay, after that, then you're either in a lot of debt and not working in your field to try and pay that off, or you're just putting yourself in more debt trying to get yourself those additional degrees to get somewhere to eventually pay that off. And that was definitely way more time than I was willing to put into school. After my 4 years, I was like, okay, I'm kind of done. I can't imagine doing like another 4 or 6 years to continue and to work in a lab. It's like, I don't mind lab work, but I wasn't like necessarily passionate about it either.
Lots of fields at 4 years that's designed 4 years is enough, and then you can go on and get whatever credential. But there are some of those fields that are kind of, just vaguely defined, where you really do, if, I think that you had mentioned forensics, that often you do have to earn terminal degrees in order to, maybe work in that field in the ways that you have imagined. So I hear you there. It can be very expensive as well, especially considering that colleges and universities have a lot more happening on campus than just training. So all of those other ancillary activities, all of the clubs and all of the sports and all of the beautiful landscaping and the gardens and the student centers and all of that, that's part of your tuition is going to those kinds of things, which makes for a wonderful experience. But down the line, when you've gone into debt, sometimes less is more. All right, well, let's talk about aviation. So we talked about technical school versus university education. Let's go down the line. Aviation maintenance. Why aviation? What inspired you to enter into the aviation maintenance field?
I actually didn't find a love for planes. It's a love of the puzzle. I love to have something that no one else can figure out, or it needs a team setting, or it's just the puzzle. It's the seek of the find. And especially for a aircraft that needs to be sold to another person, you have to do a deep dive on all the records from the birth of the plane to now, and it's just delicious. I love it. I love paperwork, and it's so sad because a lot of people don't, but the paperwork will never lie to you. It's very black and white, and it tells you a story. Every single plane has a story, whether it was damaged or had, you know, been in some precarious areas and had so much corrosion, and it'll all tell you a beautiful story. So that's what I like.
That's a wonderful way to characterize it, that
Yeah.
you're really just reading that airplane's biography when it comes
Yeah.
in, you know, what has this airplane been through? That's a great way of thinking of it. And the troubleshooting aspect, it sounds like it really makes you feel excited to
Yes.
solve those puzzles and find solutions that might not be so obvious to other people. So that's great. What has inspired you all to be in aviation? Anybody else have any stories? Or yeah, Marissa.
I had a very, very similar journey as Melissa, where I came into it, and it was like, it wasn't necessarily about the planes, but it was about something else. And for me, it was doing something different every day. It's part of the reason I went into GA. I can't work on the same tail of the same Boeing every single day. Yeah, I'd love to get to know that system that well, but that's not who I am. So for me, I work on experimental aircraft, vintage aircraft, generic Cessna 172s. I get to work on the same aircraft a couple different times over the course of an install, but I'm always working on completely different systems, and I never get bored of the same thing. So for me, aircraft maintenance is not just, oh, I gotta fix that screw or whatever. It's figure out what is causing this fire detection system in a Cessna 421 to continuously say that there's a fire in the engine when there's not. And it's really interesting for me to just always have something extremely different day to day. And that really ties into the reason that I went into aviation for me.
I grew up in a small town in Michigan that's famous for being home of Rosie the Riveter. So I've been exposed to aviation history from a very young age. But it wasn't until I saw the RS-25 shuttle engine for the first time that my life had been changed forever. And I was set on the path of getting my A&P and trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do with my life. And just like Marissa, when I looked into, different avenues, I wanted something that I could do something different every day and that I wasn't, stagnated, and I had the opportunity to advance in the field that I chose. And the world of aviation maintenance is somewhere that you can do all of those things.
I knew I was on the right career path probably within the first week or two. I was at PIA, honestly. One, just I was really enjoying the material that we were going over, and then like the minute we got into shop work too, I was like, yes, okay. I very much enjoyed the environment of being in shop, working with my group and working with the other guys. They were all super helpful and like just accepting and willing to work with me in different things too. Like it was just so different than kind of how I grew up, because I grew up working in the shop with my dad and like helping him out, working on different equipment and all that. But even hanging out with my dad and like his group of guy friends is always like, oh, you can't do this because you're a girl and blah 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 blah. And it's like, I never heard that once at PIA with like the group of guys that I work with, and I've never heard it once even working at SkyWest or anything too. So no, it was definitely once I really got into the mechanics, I'm like, okay, yep, this is definitely my jam. This is where I fit.
What was your experience as a female pursuing a career path in a historically male field of aviation? Have you run into any things that surprised you? Any difficulties? What comes to mind?
With the shop I work in, you've got plenty of people that are, well, not so much a lot of people. We've got a few people that will give you issues because you're a girl. I started out, I worked with this one guy, and I heard constantly, it's like, oh, you'll never be a real mechanic. You'll never be a real mechanic. That's just not true. It's not a matter of I'm smaller or I'm a girl. It's a matter of attitude. It's a matter of what you're willing to learn. It's not, I don't know.
Did that ever discourage you?
A little bit. I heard a little bit from some of the guys I had. Well, not some of, just one guy in A&P school. I heard it from a little bit too. But so it's like kind of, you start an A&P school, you hear a little bit of it, oh, you'll never be a real mechanic, and you catch it when you first start the job. It's like, oh goodness, what am I doing? Like, can I actually do this? And yes, you can. It's not so much the gender, it's just somebody insecure with themselves.
I am the only woman on my team, and I'm also the only A&P mechanic. And I learned very early on that men and women have different advantages in my field. For example, there is a torque spec of 600 foot-pounds on a joint. And doing that by hand is very difficult for me. I'm 5'4" and 130 pounds, and it was really hard. I could do it, but I struggled with it very much. And it was hard for me to rely on my male counterparts because I wanted to be the woman that could do it all. Even though I'm a woman, I wanted to be able to do it. And learning that lesson that you need to, work as a team, a cohesive machine in and of itself. And like I said, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. I was really good at, safety wire in those little tiny spaces that my hands could fit into. And, making sure that everything was safe and good to go to ship to Starbase. Whereas my male counterparts, they, are all muscle. They can do the heavy lifting while I do the intricate work. So everybody has their place in our team. Everybody is valued, and it's really nice to have that.
Let's move on to your friends and family. Friends and family. As you were talking through, okay, I think I'm going to be an airplane mechanic. I'm going to go into the space industry. I'm going to, quit my job and go back to school full time to do this thing in aviation that maybe friends and family never even thought of, right? You get on an airplane, you don't see the A&P mechanics. That's not something that necessarily comes to mind with the general public. So you've got this kind of behind the scenes kind of job that's happening. It sure sounds like a thing that a guy would do, right? Does anybody have any stories about friends and family, whether they supported you or not? Okay, Miranda?
Before I had the idea to attend PIA, I was actually going through like a really rough point in my life. I just received 2 DUIs and different things, and I was going through that mess. And then I was doing therapy and different things and getting myself back together. And then that's when I had heard the ad on the radio and decided, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And everyone just kind of thought it was one of my grandeur ideas, and it would pass and I'd get over it and what have you. But then I really started putting the paperwork. I registered, and I had my mom take me to the Hagerstown campus for PIA. And I remember pulling into the parking lot. My mom's like, oh, this is it? I'm like, yes, this is it. Just the disappointment the minute we pulled into the parking lot, because it's just a big blue building. She's like, oh. But then we went through the school and started touring the hangar and different things. She's like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And then it's okay. Then my mom really got to see how much they really offer there and what the education program really is about at PIA. And then it's it all started to click, and then my family was like, okay, yeah, we can really see you doing this. This is definitely more of your environment than what Harrisburg University was and what have you. So it was kind of a big shift. And then after graduation, everything else, everyone was just so happy that I got through the program, and were super excited and proud for me, and super excited that I'm happy, that I love my job that I'm in now. And just they see the huge difference from when I was in college and doing something that I wasn't really passionate about or into versus what I do now. And it's just really amazing.
Let's move on to highlights of your current job or your career so far after you've graduated. Has there been a singular highlight, something that has been a crowning proud moment for you in your career? Elizabeth?
I get the unique opportunity to see my work on television and YouTube and fan sites and everything else. The first time I saw one of my engines arrive at Starbase and they were taking pictures of my engine, I was so thrilled. I was so proud of my accomplishments, and being able to see my engines go on and be mounted onto Booster 7 or Starship 25 and actually see them being used, and it's just an amazing opportunity to see your work and to have that gratification.
10 years of graduating, I was an assistant chief inspector. That just blew everybody's mind because my attention to detail was so spot on, and it was, I don't know, just delicious. Just delicious.
I actually did get recognized for the 40 under 40 this year, and that's awesome. So around January or so, my boss emailed the foreman for submitting me, and I had thought they had said in that email portion that it would be in the July-August issue. And so when we didn't hear back until mid-May, late June, I was like, oh my God, I got it. Oh, this is awesome. And I texted everybody I know. I called my mom. I was like crying. And it's not a huge, amazing accomplishment, but it's something that's genuinely wonderful to see yourself recognized as, because it puts, for me at least, it validates all of my struggles that I've been through trying to get through A&P school and trying to get through the struggles of having a new job. And while my job is awesome and I love the crew that I work with, it was just really nice to be able to see that on paper. For the most part, for me, it was just that validation of this is what I have been doing. This is what I've achieved. And I am seen not only as a woman in aviation, but an excelling person in aviation. So
let's go back to obstacles. Have there been any major challenges for you, either during school or within your new job? Melissa?
When I was an on-site representative, I had taken the aircraft to be ran up after their major overhauls. And turboprops are a little finicky, and they are my favorite. See my turboprop in the back.
Yeah.
The people who were at the MRO that I was, our aircraft was at, had been on the aircraft with me to monitor what the issues could have arose and to fix them. And as I'm waiting for the ITT to come down, I was waiting, and he grabbed my levers and pulled them down to stop the engines. And I slapped his hand and I put him back up. And now you're scared. Yes, you are in control. And to have that confidence and to know exactly what to do whenever emergencies arise, I was trained very well. They would not have sent me if I wasn't. But to have that happen to you in that moment, it was eye-opening, because a person, not only was he a male, but a person, to take control from a person in the controls was unforgivable. And I kicked him off my plane, and I had every right to. And it was just the most scariest, but the most pivotal moment of, yes, this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm doing, and I'm in control. I've got this. Don't you fret. And it was insane.
Yes. You have to assert yourself in actually a physical way, that quickly in such a, a pressure-filled moment. I'm sure made a huge impression on both of you that day.
Yes.
For sure.
And it lit off, and And I'm like, you just gotta wait. They're tentative, you know, they're just very temperamental, and you gotta be calm. And he didn't even have his run taxi, so it was really crazy that he's so
Oh.
scared that he pulled the controls and was just he was trying to help. And I get it. People are scared. When you're scared, you do make choices that are not of level mind, and you just have to be more more
A little less emotional about things, right?
yes.
For me, especially from coming straight from high school into A&P school, finishing A&P school, immediately having my job lined up, being in this job a week after I graduated A&P school, I had never worked a full-time job like this. I mean, I worked at Sonic. That's nothing compared to this. So for me, the biggest thing was I could not overcome my insecurity in my work. I had to have people double check me. I was terrified that I was going to screw up, that I was going to break something. And for me, it was really, really hard to overcome that. But about, I'd say 6 or so months of just consistently working with the same crew and them supporting me and helping me overcome that, I'm now able to go and do a 100-hour inspection and have full confidence that I have looked over this plane myself. I sign it off myself. It goes in the logbook. I'm 21 years old and I'm signing off these. It's terrifying. So for me, I just would recommend that don't be afraid to screw up, because for me, I had to screw up to understand.
You know, I think too, and you said, you know, you're terrified before you're signing off a 100-hour inspection. And, you know, that means that you care. And that means that it really matters. And that means that you know the gravity of that signature.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need. You are in exactly the right place. And it maybe will, yes, maybe over time that feeling of being terrified will just be an incredibly focused feeling. But that's, you know, we certainly don't ever want that to be taken lightly. And I just think that's a testament to your understanding how important it is to return an aircraft to service.
So I started at my job straight out of A&P school, no real aircraft experience. I mean, I was a ramper during A&P school, but other than that, not really any proper aircraft experience. And they put me directly into avionics. And so they're like, oh, you can do great here. And so I started in avionics, and there's another girl in avionics, thankfully, the only other girl in the whole shop. There's probably about 100 of us here. And so she was there for a week, taught me like all the basic sort of things. And then she went on her vacation for the next week. And I got handed to the guys like, you're not a real mechanic. So he was the one working with me, and we had to redo a whole cargo handling system. And it was kind of the like, oh, here's what you're doing, and now go do it, figure it out, you've got this. And I did have it. And I was actually more competent than one of the other guys that had been there for years. So in the end, he actually got kicked off of our team and back to the floor. But that was his own work, but not mine. But just kind of the whole, I had a little bit of training, and then it was kind of off on your own, figure it out, deal with the people out there. And yeah, sort of, you kind of get handed off to whoever, or when you're first starting, and you just kind of have to learn on the go, figure out what's going on, learn to read the manual yourself, and not trust whatever somebody else is telling you that you need to do, because the manual, at the end of the day, it's your signature on the paperwork. It's your name to what was supposed to happen, not what they said was supposed to happen.
What advice would you give, or what do you think would help raise awareness of AMT and avionics careers for more young women? What types of things could PIA be doing, or could high schools be doing, or could industry be doing to help pave the way for more women to enter into the aviation maintenance field?
Just letting them know that we are all capable of doing this, and this is an option for everyone that is able-bodied. I didn't even consider going into aviation maintenance until I looked into what companies were looking for. I didn't know what an A&P was until I looked at, applications for the companies that I was considering. I didn't know that this was even something that I could go to trade school for. So I feel like if we are more transparent with who we are as individuals and what we do in our daily lives and our work life, I feel like we can start to inspire and complete some outreach to individuals who don't even know that this is an option for them.
Transparency, communication, information is very important, because like I know a lot of us in high school, all they pushed were universities, the academic education, and I feel like the more information you put out there and the more available it is, like that's just so huge, because like I didn't really hear anything about tech schools or different things like that when I was in high school. Aviation maintenance didn't really cross my mind until I heard the ad on the radio, and I was like, oh, okay. And like the other big thing to go along with that as well is even like have the information out there that like even women can work alongside with guys, like with males. Like I saw an interview on the news. There was a PIA graduate on the news that was interviewed, and I just feel like it would be a little bit more helpful, because I think it is very intimidating for women to like, oh, what's it going to be like working with a bunch of guys? Because I know I was intimidated. I was intimidated the first day of school. I'm like, what are the guys going to think of me? Like, are they going to think that I can't do it? And I think it's like really important to see that it's like we can work together with the males, and it's perfectly fine. Like, especially with the guys that I work with at my hangar, like they're super great. I had one guy tell me the other day, he's like, Miranda, I'm sorry, sometimes I forget you're not a dude. I'm like, that's okay. I take that as a compliment. It means that you think that I'm on your level. I'm totally okay with it. So it's like, and that kind of goes along with like, I don't know, me personally, I can't stand like the push of like equality. It's like, it's not about equality. It's about equity. Everyone has the same potential. Everyone has the same potential to be amazing. Everyone has the same potential to make mistakes. Like they might vary and be different in different ways, but if we just kind of like treat everyone with equity, with the same amount of potential, I feel like we can go so much farther than just trying to live under the assumption like everyone's the same no matter what. It's like, no, that's not necessarily the case. We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
I didn't know that this was a possibility to be an A&P mechanic, but it's not even to aviation. A&Ps go for roller coasters, trains. I mean, they only hire them. And even if aviation's not your passion, an A&P license can get you pretty much anywhere. And if they had tests for aptitude for mechanical, they should be putting it on the ballot that you could be a mechanic for trains, planes, automobiles, and just exposure. I am totally willing to go out to any high school and talk to them. I wish I would have known, because I would have started a lot sooner than 28 years old.
And we'll go to one final question for the panel here. If you could give advice to another woman who might be considering entering this field, what would you recommend that she do? What should she avoid? Is there anything specific that you think she should prepare for or study? One piece of advice for a young person entering the field.
Not so much you have to be immediately confident in yourself. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to mess up, to not understand exactly what you're doing when you first start there. And I mean, you're going to hear a lot of things against you, but it's okay. You're going to get through it. You're going to make it through, and you're going to still have a wonderful career at the end. There's plenty of people who believe in you. You'll eventually get to believing in yourself, even if you don't when you first start. It's okay, just start and you can make it through. It's not something that you're incapable of because of your gender or any other factors. I mean, age or any other factors.
Every time that you make a choice, make it because you feel that that is the right choice for you, and that you have consulted that little voice inside of you. Never muffle that little voice inside that says right or wrong, and just never sell your integrity. You can never get it back.
to anybody who's looking into it, there is something for everyone. It does not matter what you are into. You could be interested in paperwork. You can love paperwork, and there is so much of it. You can only want to install autopilot servos. There are so many people that are just beautiful at those wiring harnesses. It does not matter what you want to do. There is something in this job for it. You want to be a receptionist? We've got reception jobs. You want to do anything, aviation has it. And I just want to push more people into aviation because it is such a widespread field. And a lot of people see, oh, aircraft mechanic. Well, I'm not good with wrenches, but that's not what it is. You have to have that aptitude for learning, and you have to be teachable, and most people are. And I just want to really push that no matter what, you will find where you're meant to be. Whether or not that's where you are right this minute in aviation, you will find where you're meant to be.
Well, I could talk about this all day, and I absolutely love this group. I have 5 new people that I'm looking up to in the world, and I'm going to be following your futures as they progress. And I just couldn't be more proud to have you representing PIA and representing aviation and representing women in the trades. How fabulous that you are all doing what you're doing and winning at it. It's just the best. It's just the best. And I can't thank you all enough for your time. I think you've given the folks who might be watching this discussion some really valuable perspective on how pursuing technical education leads to great career outcomes. And I hope our viewers here, as they're listening, are feeling empowered to pursue aviation technician training or their trade of choice without the context of it being a second class or a fallback choice or a gender-based choice, but instead a choice that is based on excellent career prospects and a track that can really provide for their future and the future of their families. So I speak for all of PIA when I say that we are absolutely honored that you chose our programs and that you're experiencing this type of success in your careers. You all carry yourselves with such pride, and our mission, PIA's mission, our shared mission, to honor the pursuit of higher education that is both meaningful to the individual and valuable to society is embodied within each of you. And I so appreciate your time today, and I wish you all the best for continued success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.